What is good, everyone? Welcome to this video. I'm Charlie from Conscious Creation, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you what the pain body is and how we can go about and start to release it. So let's dive straight into it. What is the pain body? The pain body is an accumulation of emotional trauma suffered in the past, and we hold it in our body and in our energy field. And what we tend to do is we tend to see life through the lens of our pain body. So let's say, for example, we have our stick lady here, and in her past, she experienced some trauma. Now, because of this, she's now got some insecurity in her pain body. Maybe she's got some anxiety or some doubt. And as she identifies with these feelings, it becomes a lens in which she sees the world. Now, the world just being this big mirror, it's going to reflect more of this back to her. So if she's holding this insecurity, the world is going to reflect more reasons for her to be insecure. So what we want to do is we want to release this stuff from the pain body so we no longer get this reflection. Now, we have our own singular pain body, but we also have a collective pain body, which we can all tap into. An example of this would be there'll be a collective pain body around feminine energy, because for thousands of years this world has been dominated by masculine energy. Females have been suppressed mentally through their creativity, sexually, and in many different ways, and because of this there is a strong female collective pain body. We can go through the process of clearing our own pain body, but we're also going through a process of releasing the collective pain body as well. So this pain body can either be dormant, which means it's behind the scenes, it's not in our face. When it becomes activated, all of this trauma comes to the surface for us to have a look at. Now, if your pain body becomes more and more activated, you're much more likely going to experience enlightenment or a spiritual awakening. Why? Because if your life is a living nightmare because of this activated pain body, you are going to have a stronger inclination to wake up. If you go to bed one evening and you have a nightmare and then you wake up, you're like, oh, thank goodness it was just a dream. Whereas if you had a lovely dream and you wake up, you want to go back to sleep and try and have the dream again. If things in your life are really painful, you are going to want to try and detach from this. And this is why many spiritual awakenings occur. It's like a pressure pump, and we get pumped through and we get a detachment from the mind and from the body. Now, the pain body is created through the identification of your mind and of your body. So when you have this detachment, you can realize you can watch the mind and watch all of the thoughts that it produces, and you can watch the body and all of the feelings and emotions that it produces, but still realize that you are not it. So you're able to not identify, or you're not identifying with those things. It's the continual identification with the mind and with the body that keeps the cycle of the pain body going. Because we are not our mind, we are not our body, we are our soul. That is our true nature. When people say, oh, you're spiritual or you're not spiritual, we are all spiritual beings at our core. So it's not something that you cannot be. It's just whether or not you are aware of it. We need the mind and we need the body, and they are amazing things to have. They allow us to maneuver around this 3D reality and have this experience. But if we identify with them too much, it reinforces more and more of the ego. Now, having parts of the ego is really important because it keeps us alive. It's a survival mechanism. But over identifying with this stuff reinforces more of the ego, which pulls us away from that of our true nature. So realizing that we're these spiritual beings and not the mind and not the body at our core, this is what allows us to transmute and release the pain body. A good analogy I like to use of this is an onion. If you have an onion, and let's say within the center of this onion is an orb of light. Now, what does an onion have? It has layers. So as you start to peel back the layers of the onion, peeling back the layers of the pain body, releasing the stuff that no longer serves us, this part of ourselves will start to seep through. Now, what stops this from happening is believing that the past has more power than the present moment. Because if we identify with the things that have happened in the past, okay, it reinforces that ego, and we continue to get that reflection, and we continue to get those cycles. Realizing and observing what our thoughts and what our body is doing, this allows it to start to be released from the body. So what we need to do for this is we need to have our attention and our acceptance on the stuff that starts to rise up. Now, when I say acceptance, it doesn't mean you have to like this stuff that comes up. Usually when it comes up, it's not there to be liked. It's just simply there to be acknowledged and felt. So observing the chattering mind or observing those uncomfortable feelings in the body is what allows us to start to release that insecurity, that anxiety, that doubt, those certain limiting belief systems. And as we do this, it starts to release more and more from the pain body, allowing us to have more of this internal freedom, which allows us to attract new things in our reality. Now, what we want to try and do is we want to try and catch the pain body before we start to identify with it. So as soon as we feel the emotional charge of a reaction starting to come up, so if a certain situation or person or circumstance starts to trigger, let's say, that anxiety or that insecurity, is we want to feel the emotional charge behind that before we start to identify with it, before we start to create a story in our mind. So we feel it, and simply through that attention is you accept it and release it. And what I mean by your soul and spiritual nature, that part of you just simply observes things, and they don't judge. It doesn't judge. It's got no good or bad. That all comes from duality, which is that of the mind. So when we learn to just simply observe this stuff, simply your attention, your focus, that's your spiritual nature looking at this stuff, and that in turn starts to transmute it. It's a bit like a log. If you have a log, and let's say this represents your insecurity. Now, your presence, your awareness of that will determine how strong and powerful the fire is to burn through that log. So the more present and the more aware you can become of these things within inside yourself, instead of reacting to them, it's going to allow us to release this within us. Now, if you do end up reacting to circumstances or situations, that's fine, that's cool, that's perfectly normal. However, a really good thing that I have found is to witness yourself doing the reacting. So if that emotional charge kicks in and you're suddenly reacting to a situation, notice yourself reacting. Look at yourself while you're having this reaction. And that in itself will also start to transmute the pain body. And as we go through this process, we release more of that pain body and the more internal freedom and peace that we're going to have, which is going to allow us to attract new things in this mirror that we have. So thank you for watching. Peace and take care.